What is up, everybody? It is Mr. Hamilton, and this is On the Couch. Today, we're talking about the Suicide Squad, the new one directed by none other than James Gunn, that is now out in theaters and HBO Max. So, spoiler alert is in effect. If you have not seen this movie, you know, find another reaction video or another review or something like that. If you have seen it, go ahead and stick around. Before we do get into the review, make sure you guys get your seat on the couch by hitting that subscribe button down below, hitting the bell so you guys get notified every time that I drop new content. So yeah, make sure that you guys take your seat on the couch. There's room for everybody. So, James Gunn's Suicide Squad. Where to begin with this movie? It's a good movie. I enjoyed it. It's a good time. I had fun watching it. You have to remember going into this movie that it is a James Gunn movie, and he is a weird person. His mind thinks a little bit differently than everybody else. That's why when they show like the previews, it says from the beautifully horrible mind or horribly beautiful mind of James Gunn, because that's just how he is. And it really shows in this movie. Like, yeah, he did Guardians of the Galaxy, and even for like what Marvel was doing, that was their weird movie. And watching the Suicide Squad, I was like, this is definitely the Guardians of the Galaxy of DC. Like, that's what his Suicide Squad movie is. So, like, if you've seen the first one, and which, according to what they said, that the first one does exist in the DC universe, they both do. So, it's not, is it a sequel? Who knows? I don't know how they plan it, but so, you remember the first one, Amanda Waller pretty much picks up a bunch of bad guys, turns them into a team called Task Force X, a.k.a. the Suicide Squad, pretty much where when the Justice League can't be called in for dirty work and stuff like that, they call them in. They're expendable. If they die, who cares? They're villains. It is what it is. If they survive the mission and stay on mission, they get 10 years off their sentence. So that was the basis of it. So nothing's changed in that. Waller's still in charge. She's still mean, barking orders at people, and ready to blow people's heads off if they decide to desert the mission. There's a lot of cameos in that first opening scene. I will say there's a lot of cameos. There's a lot of characters I've never heard of. Even in the regular Suicide Squad, or like in like the main Suicide Squad of this movie, there's still a lot of people who I've never heard of. And like, it makes me want to do research on some of these characters, like the Polka Dot Man. That right there is funny. The TDK, the detachable kid. Like, there's a lot of characters in there that are like, did you guys just make this up, or are these characters really in DC? Because like, they're so bizarre when you see some of these people. It's just like, okay, there's no way. But they did Saving Private Ryan in the first like 15 minutes of the movie and just obliterate everybody. Just like, like, I'm like, okay, it's rated R, there's gonna be some violence in this, and no, it's legs are flying, limbs are being chopped off, blood is everywhere. I was like, oh, we're doing this, and it's funny and it's entertaining, and it takes you out of the DC that the dark and brooding Batman and Superman and all this, gods and mythical creatures. And for once, it kind of brings it down to this, like, world, like, down to earth, boots on ground, just meta-humans versus humans and stuff like that. And it's funny to see. And you know how James Gunn is and his music. Like, there's just absurd tracks playing in the background while people's limbs are being hacked off and stuff like that. That's why I say this is the Guardians of the Galaxy of DC, because it's the same thing. Just how the Guardians, when there would be fight scenes and funny, crazy stuff going on, they'd be playing like old classical music. You know what I'm saying? So like that's what would be happening. Limbs are flying off and like a love ballad is playing in the background. It's very, very, very James Gunn down to the center of it. And there's just like weird stuff that happens. Like later on in the movie, there's a fight scene with Harley Quinn, and out of nowhere, there's these flowers and animated things going on, and I'm sitting there thinking like, what is going on? And then, but I think it was meant to represent Harley Quinn's like her mind. Like she obviously ticks a little bit different way than everybody else does, and I think when she goes into this like mode of, you know, because she's usually like ditzy and airheaded and ha 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 ha, you know. But then when she gets into that like that psycho mode of just murdering people, I think in her mind it's almost beautiful. Like, you know, she sees flowers and rainbows and stuff like that. I think that's where we kind of saw the psychoticness of what Harley Quinn really is like mentally. Like everybody's like, oh, she's cute and this. No, she's actually pretty nuts. Pretty fucking crazy. So Amanda Waller once again installs the help of Task Force X, and they have to go figure out where this project is being stored that happened way back with the Nazis and everything like that. And, you know, long story short, they find out that the American government was a part of it. They've been sent there to destroy evidence that they were ever a part of it, but they didn't really care about what was being held in there as, you know, as an experiment, which was pretty weird to say in the least. Like I said, I don't want to spoil too much, but the thing that they end up fighting is like, what the fuck and where the fuck and how the fuck and why the fuck, like what are we doing right now? Like it's some comic book shit. Like it literally is some comic book shit. It's shit you see in the comic books, and you know, to see it on the big screen, you're like, oh wow, this is crazy. You know, it was funny because my girlfriend, we start watching it and she just looks at me and she's like, this isn't Marvel. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not even close to Marvel. But the dude who did direct this did do the Marvel movie, The Guardians of the Galaxy. And she was like, I kind of got that feeling. And I was like, that's, you know, and that's what I'm saying. Once again, like it's like if he did a rated R, very violent version of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like he brought together an odd team of odd people and put them together and sent them on a mission, and a weird mission, and then just made it super violent, super action, funny, weird, and full of music the way he would any other movie. You know, and that's what I think. That's what I like about it is it's not James Gunn trying to be DC, or it's not James Gunn trying to stick within this box of what WB wanted. It's James Gunn saying, "Oh, this is what I'm doing this the way that I want to do this." Same thing the way Zack Snyder does what he does. You know, and that's what makes them brilliant directors of what they do, is because they stick to what they know and they don't conform to anything. And you know, because it's like you get some directors who are like, I'm going to shoot it like this, or I'm going to go in that direction, instead of like, this is how I do my movies and I'm going to stick to how I do my movies, you know. So, you know, it's actually it's a very fun time. One thing I will say is they definitely just swapped out the Will Smith character Deadshot for Bloodsport. Like they're literally identical. He's a marksman, like, who just kills on point, you know. And he has a daughter who he's like trying to protect, this and that. And Waller uses her as leverage to get him to do what he wants. So that mirror image, but it's just, I don't think that they were gonna be able to get Will Smith to do this type of movie or play that type of character, because the character Bloodsport is very like older, raw, doesn't give a shit, doesn't play well with others, we'll talk back, this and that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like an identical. It's just the characters are identical, like down to the T, which I thought was funny, and I think maybe they did that on purpose. There's a lot of unexpected deaths. There's people who you're like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen. Why did they kill this person? Why did they kill that person? Why does he get to live? Why does that person get to live as opposed to this person? Like I said, I won't spoil like any of the deaths or anything like that, but just be prepared for a lot of people to die. Like, in some pretty gruesome ways, some of these people die. King Shark, hands down, probably one of my favorite characters. Sylvester Stallone killed it at being King Shark. There's hella funny parts with him in there, and he just delivers like certain lines, and it's just so funny. Like I loved King Shark in this. Let's see who else is like one of my favorite characters. The Polka Dot Man is very creepy but funny in the same way. His powers, I really want to look him up just because his powers are like off the wall. Like, where did that even come from? Yeah, and then at the end of the movie, it's just, you're like, you know what? As weird as that was, it was a fun time. It's a fun movie. There's people who are going to go into this, I know, who are going to be like, it's a DC film. I need to see Batman. I need to see epic battles and, all this other stuff. No, for once, DC turned around and did something totally different, and it was good. Was it better than people ask me, like, do you think it was better than the first one or the original? I can't compare the two because they are two different type of movies. Like, the first one was very serious, very full of action, very like Gotham City, Batman, like orientated, like DC stuff. This is DC characters and all this stuff, but we're going to stick more to the comic book side of what Suicide Squad is, and keep it over there. Because the Suicide Squad, yes, they do have run-ins with Batman and stuff like that in the comics. You've all seen the animated movies, the Harley Quinn stuff. So yes, they do have run-ins with Batman, but in the comic books, the Suicide Squad were kind of their own thing. Like, they had their own people, their own missions. You did see main characters from DC in it, but it wasn't that often, so that's why this was more like a story from a comic book perspective. And I really liked it because it's like DC needs to get away from the Batmans and the Supermans and the Justice Leagues. So this was like a breath of fresh air for DC to do something different. Don't do something that's placed in Gotham. Don't do something that has to have a Batman cameo, that has to have, the Batfleck. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to ride the coattails off of that for this movie to be good. And he proved it with this movie. I rate this movie an 8 out of 10 just because it was good. Sometimes the weirdness got me a little distracted from it. There was times where I was like, all right, this movie's kind of moving in a totally different direction, and then it reels it back in with like a crazy action scene or this and that. I loved how it was shot. James Gunn knows how to shoot some crazy stuff, and I like movies when you can see the director's sense of style of directing and filming come through the movie, because there's too many movies that get put out and it's like anybody could have directed that, it would have looked exactly the same. No, not everybody, nobody else but James Gunn could have made this movie look like how it looked here, and that's what I'm saying. And so it's original. That's why I like it. I thought, you know what I'm saying? So I give it an 8 out of 10. Would I watch it again? For sure. I would definitely watch it again. I need to, because James Gunn said there's a Guardian from Guardians of the Galaxy like hidden, and I kept my eyes peeled for it. Couldn't find it. I gotta look. I gotta look through the Guardians. And here's the thing. I don't know. Is it like a Guardians of like from the Guardians that we know, or is it an old school? Like, what is it? I need more hints. But he said that nobody's seen it, nobody's talked about it, and I would like to be the first one. So I will probably go through this movie with a fine-tuned comb and try to figure out if I can be the first one to find this. So yeah, you guys tell me, hop in the comments if you've seen Suicide Squad. What did you guys think about it? What was your favorite scene? Who was your favorite character? Let's have a conversation. I want to hear from you guys what you guys thought of the movie. What did you guys think of my review? Do you think I was spot on? Do you think I was too generous in the score? Or would you have given it a 10 out of 10? So yeah, guys, thank you guys for joining me for a movie review of Suicide Squad. Make sure you guys take your guys' seat on the couch right here. There's room for everybody. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you guys hit the bell so you guys get my content as soon as it drops. Thank you guys, everybody who's been supporting the channel. We are on our way to 1,000 subscribers. I love it. So yeah, thank you guys so much. And once again, guys, I'm Mr. Hamilton. Peace.